When you talk about branding and this idea of really what is a brand, I'm always reminded of this story. So my wife, AJ, is also my business partner. We actually just exited a business that we spent 12 years of our lives building. And AJ is a chronic overachiever. She's a taskmaster, a do-gooder, like a checklister, and she runs the house, runs the business, just like go, go, go. And when we got married, how many of you are happily married? Okay, how many of you are just married? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So I'm super happily married, but when we went and got married at the county clerk's office, they give you this form to fill out for the marriage license. And so AJ's filling out her information, right? The top half is all about her. And she writes in her name, her birth date, her social security number. Well, she gets down to the bottom half of the page, which is supposed to be all about the husband. Well, rather than having me fill it out, she decides she's going to fill it in for me. So she writes in my name, my birth date, my social security number. Well, she gets to the last question, which asks about ethnicity. And she writes in for me, Caucasian. And I looked at her and I was like, honey, what are you doing? And she said, what? I said, you just wrote down Caucasian. She says, yeah, so? I said, honey, I'm Mexican. And I think it was the first moment it dawned on her she was actually about to marry a Mexican man. And we'd been dating for several years, but so it was like she knew that my grandmother was born in Mexico. She knew my mother's maiden name was Real Vasquez. Like, she knew that, but it's not how she thought of me, which is interesting because when you think about what is a brand, I offer a very simple definition. A brand is, what do people think of when they think of you? That's simple. What do people think of when they think of you? And that's a question that you have to just sort of ask yourself, because really that's all we're trying to do when we build a brand is to influence what people think of when they think about us. Now, the best part about that story with AJ is a couple nights later, we were at the rehearsal dinner and we were, we're actually about to get married. And we live in Nashville, which is where our wedding was, but she grew up in Georgia and I'm from Colorado. So our families were just meeting each other for the first time. And she told me to tell that joke. She thought, that story. She's like, I think that's funny. It'll break the ice. So I stand up at our rehearsal dinner in front of both of our families. And I tell that story exactly as it happened, just as I told you. As soon as I tell the story, my whole side of the family starts cracking up. They think it is hilarious. They're like doubled over with laughter. Her whole side of the family, at the exact same time, they all look at each other and they're like, he's Mexican? So needless to say, our marriage has survived and we're doing well. But what do people think of when they think of you?